America just can't seem to get enough of Princess Diana. You're looking at 200 of the 4 million readers who picked up the issue of People magazine which broke the royal story. And ever since, the rumors have been spreading and people are asking themselves, what really happened behind the palace walls? Today, we have the exclusive on the very latest developments on this story. Stay with us.
Her eating problems started at school. Her schoolmates told me that she used to gorge herself and have 4, 5, and 6 helpings of breakfast. Then hold on, let me finish, please.
Give me a name or two instead of a vague generalization.
Let me finish.
Go on, give me a name.
Will you shut up, you little worm?
Wow! Over the last few weeks, we've been hearing what we call in America rumors. Princess Diana has bulimia. Princess Diana is suicidal. Prince Charles is cheating on Princess Diana. And the worst of all, they may be getting a divorce. Now, what is real and what's rumor? A couple of weeks ago, I went to London to find out what was really going on. In fact, many of you may have watched the special that I was lucky enough to be able to host on Princess Di. It aired Friday night on the Fox network. Today, for the first time, we've brought together the 3 royal authors. Actually, they're not royal, but they're authors on royalty. Their books are so hot that stores all over the country can't keep them on the shelves. All 3 books say very different things about Diana. Andrew Morton, whose book is #1 on the bestseller list right now, wrote that Diana had 5 suicide attempts. But Lady Colin Campbell, whose book is also a bestseller, says the suicide attempts are nothing but rubbish. And finally, a newly published book by Nicholas Davis that just went on the bestseller list states that Diana is no angel. She too may have what I will tactfully call outside interests. Hot stuff. We'll talk with those authors later, but first let's talk with Andrew Morton. He's joining us via satellite from London. Andrew, your book, Diana, Her True Story, has been #1 in this country for 4 weeks now and #1 in Europe. Ain't bad. Your book is called Her True Story. All right, did Princess Diana want you to write this book?
Well, lots of people think that. What I've done is spoken to as many people surrounding her as possible. I've spoken to her family, I've spoken to her friends, I've spoken to everyone that I could think of. And really, there was no great conspiracy behind it, Sally. I just started to investigate what the real Diana was like, to try, for example, if you will, to explain the enigma of this woman who adorns the cover of all the magazines in the world, of People magazine and so on, but very little is known about.
Now, what were your sources for the book?
I spoke to her brother, the present Earl Spencer. Her father, the late Earl Spencer, provided photographs for the book. I spoke to her best friends, people like Caroline Bartholomew. I spoke to people like her old boyfriends, like James Gilby, who is still in touch with her now. I spoke to her counsellors, people like Stephen Twigg, and even her astrologer.
Have you heard back what the royal family feels about you?
Well, I think they've reserved a room for me in the tower, a permanent room with its own chains on the wall. The royal family themselves seem to be distancing themselves from the Princess of Wales, and we've seen that in various little events over the last few weeks. And I think that's an ominous sign, because you would expect the royal family to try and go for some kind of reconciliation between Charles and Diana, especially after the Duchess of York has left and you've still got the morass of Princess Anne's marriage collapsing, but not so.
They didn't close ranks. Let's talk about Diana's suicide attempts. Tell me about that.
Well, just a year after this uncomplicated, jolly, lively girl who was enjoying life in central London in a bachelor apartment with her friends, she was standing on the steps at Sandringham House, the Queen's winter home, preparing to throw herself down. She was then pregnant with Prince William. That was the first attempt, and it was really a cry of desperation from a woman who was in a lonely position, a despairing position. And since then, she's made numerous other, what I've called in the book, cries for help, where she's slashed herself with a razor blade, cut herself with a lemon slicer, even thrown herself against a glass cabinet. Some of them sound ludicrous, such as when she picked up a penknife from Prince Charles's study desk and just slashed her chest and her thighs with it. Her sister Jane saw her shortly afterwards and commented on the marks. They were very much desperate cries for help. Please help me, please guide me. They weren't deliberate attempts to take her own life.
What triggered the cries for help?
I think it's a number of things. Prince Charles's continual fascination with another woman, Camilla Parker Bowles, the fact that the bulimia nervosa, this eating disorder of binging and vomiting, which has affected her for most of her royal life, had royally set in with her at that time. And the flip side of bulimia is this what's known as the cutting syndrome, where you try and hurt yourself because whilst you're all smiles in public, there's rage and despair and anger underneath. And that's another part of it. The way she saw it through her eyes was Prince Charles's uncaring attitude towards her. The fact that he seemed to have done little to change his bachelor habits, even though he was now married to her.
Andrew, you're a serious journalist. Are you concerned that some of the claims you made about Princess Diana will damage your reputation?
I think that my reputation stands or falls by the authenticity of this book. And the reputation of Princess Diana's friends stands or falls by the authenticity of this book. And it's quite significant that several of them have spoken out and stood by their statements. And I'm thinking specifically of James Gilby, who spoke about the suicides. I'm thinking of Caroline Bartholomew, who spoke about the bulimia. And it's also significant that the Princess of Wales has actually visited them or spoken to them on the telephone since this book's been published. So she's standing by her friends, and I'm standing by them.
Let's go to that bulimia for a moment. Did she have the eating disorder when she was having her children?
Yes, indeed. She's had it almost from the moment she joined the royal family, from her honeymoon all the way through almost to the present day. It's under control now, but it's certainly part of what she calls the dark ages of her royal life, where she was just, when you think about it, just going from day to day, being sick 4 or 5 times a day, raiding the fridge, the refrigerator at Highgrove or at Kensington Palace or even at Windsor Castle. On one occasion, she was in the bowels of Windsor Castle, raiding a refrigerator and was sitting there eating a steak and kidney pie when she was surprised by a footman. Now, all this kind of behaviour breeds guilt, it breeds a kind of hopelessness, a very low sense of self-esteem. And so here we have this woman who in public was all smiles, but in private was going through hell.
Why do you think your book has been a bestseller in America?
I think it's because it's really touched a nerve in the national and the international psyche, because here for the first time is a woman who has been the royal equivalent to Marlene Dietrich. She's been an enigma, she's been a puzzle. People have not known anything about her, really. And what has been known has been surrounded by gossip and innuendo. This book, because of the fact that her friends have spoken out about her life, because her brother's spoken out about her early years, has this ring of authenticity about it. And also, it's a very sympathetic account of a woman who really was a girl who became a princess before she became a woman, and a woman who we see today who's gone through an awful lot in her life.
Andrew, were you the first to talk about Prince Charles and Camilla?
There's been all kinds of speculation about Prince Charles's friendships with people like Camilla Parker Bowles, Kanga Tryon, another married lady. But certainly I think I was the first to talk about it in a consistent way and put it as a thread all the way through Diana's marriage. And certainly her shadow has lingered long, both over her courtship and also her marriage. And certainly as far as Diana's friends are concerned, Prince Charles's friendship with Camilla Parker Bowles has been the cancer which has eaten at the heart of Diana's happiness.
When we come back, we'll talk to the other authors who have also written books about Princess Diana, and they have very different things to say. We'll be right back.
I'm afraid I cannot agree for one moment that Diana tried to suicide 5 times, particularly with a lemon peeler. I mean, how on earth do you go about it?
She tried to peel herself to death. Yeah. Slice by slice her skin.
language. We are talking about what some are calling the royal mess. That could be the marriage between Princess Diana and Prince Charles. Meet Lady Colin Campbell. She is the author of a book, Diana in Private, The Princess Nobody Knows. Now, for the last month, all we've been hearing about is the stressful marriage between Charles and Diana. In fact, we've been hearing that Diana tried to kill herself on more than one occasion. Do you agree with that? If so, yes. If not, why?
No, she certainly didn't.
No?
I was fed these stories starting about last year, October, and I looked into them, and I think every responsible writer has a duty to check out the material they're given and stand it up. And if it's true, you go with it, and if it's not, you discard it. And I checked out these stories and realized that it was an absolute load of bull, to be dead blunt about it all.
Now, wait a minute. You called something an absolute load of bull. Andrew, answer Lady Campbell. I think it's been called bull, but not you.
No, I think that the reason why Diana, Her True Story is #1 on the bestsellers list is because it's demonstrably authentic.
Are you alleging there? Are you alleging?
Wait,
Andrew,
let me introduce Nicholas Davies,
alleging,
the author
Andrew,
of Diana,
that members of the
a Troubled
Spencer
Marriage.
family told you that Diana had attempted suicide?
No, I'm not.
I cannot agree for one moment that Diana tried to suicide 5 times, particularly with a lemon peeler. I mean, how on earth do you go about it?
She tried to peel herself to death. Slice by slice her skin.
And with Lady Colin Campbell's book?
And with Lady Colin Campbell's book, I'm afraid that the book, to a great degree, has been dismissed in Britain by many of the royal watchers. I mean, for example, her contention that Diana went out of her way and bagged, as it was described, Prince Charles into marriage. I mean, just not on at all. I mean, Prince Charles was totally in command of that situation. She was a 19-year-old girl, and very innocent at that time, totally innocent. We thought that's absolute claptrap.
Okay, Lady Colin Campbell, what do you disagree with as far as Nicholas's book is concerned?
Well, I'm not surprised that he said what he just said, because Nicholas Davis's one source of information was Humphrey Muse. Humphrey Muse, who I happen to know, used to work in the same company that he was dismissed from. And Humphrey Muse also happened for a short while to be the assistant private secretary to the Prince of Wales. So he has information about, say, the 18-month, 2-year period that Humphrey was working in the palace. He has no information before and no information since.
Good. Andrew?
And no, can I just say, finish? And the fact of the matter is that I was told how the Princess of Wales bagged the Prince of Wales by people who were there on the spot at the time, and people who she spoke to, including friends of hers.
Does bagged mean in Americanese?
Oh, enticed
and trapped into marriage.
Yeah.
Okay, Andrew Morton, what disagreements do you have on any kind of a scale with the other 2 authors?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and these 2 people are trying to imitate this book, but failing dismally.
I hope we're not.
Well, here we have...
And you cannot call imitation a sincere form of flattery when my book came out before yours. Normally, when you imitate something that exists.
Here we have 3 extremely friendly English authors. Now, I'm going to try...
Sally, I would like to finish the point.
I've never heard of imitation after that.
I would like to... Sally, if I may finish the point. As far as Colin Campbell's book is concerned, it's been deeply hurtful to the Princess of Wales because it's a very nasty little tome.
It's not. It's truthful, rather than which yours isn't.
Nick Davis's book is concerned, he is the kind of character who makes Walter Mitty seem like a man of integrity. He was exposed last year as a liar on the front page of the various newspapers. So it's rather unfortunate that I'm in bed with these 2 people who are spreading this kind of calumny against the Princess of Wales.
Now meet James Whitaker. He is also via satellite right now. He's sitting in London, and he is a gossip columnist with the London Daily Mirror. He has been a royal watcher for more than 25 years. James, bring us up to date. What is the latest gossip going on in England with Diana and Charles?
Well, it's looking pretty dodgy at the moment, I have to say. I think I'm being led towards the fact that there could well be an official separation between the two before too long, but I cannot accept, maybe I don't want to, but I can't, that there's going to be a divorce. I think too much is at stake, and I think they're both sensible enough to accept this.
Now, someone was dismissed, were they not? Who was dismissed recently?
Her monsieur.
The masseurs?
Yes.
Her monsieur.
Oh, Stephen Trigg, are we talking
Yes,
about?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
No.
the therapist masseur. Yes, well, I think he actually was quite badly treated on it. I don't think it's as straightforward as it appeared. He did, in fact, appear to give a very big interview with one of the Sunday newspapers, but my information is he did not know that it was going to go into a newspaper, and he was actually quite badly turned over on that situation. But indeed, he is no longer welcome at Kensington Palace to treat the princess in any way, and he received a phone call from Diana's private secretary, Patrick Jefferson, just over a week ago, telling him of this.
Can I say he's actually wrong?
Who is, me or Stephen Twigg?
He's wrong. Stephen Twigg sold a story to the Sunday Express for £15,000. And
That's
Diana,
30,000 American dollars, approximately.
about 28,000.
28,000.
Yeah. And he sold the story, and that's why he was dismissed. You know, the problem with these supposed royal watchers, as these gentlemen, I will be polite and call them gentlemen. In English terms, they are like National Enquirer reporters. And, you know, they sort of scavenge around on the periphery.
Is this Lady Colin Campbell speaking?
Yes, it is. If you ever see them, and I haven't finished...
I'm just saying good morning, Lady Colin. It's a normal English civility.
Oh, I didn't hear you. I thought you... good morning.
Maybe you don't understand those things.
Well...
Just say good morning. That's what your mummy taught you.
No, well, my mother taught me actually not to speak to rabble. Now, you know, these people sort of stand out. If you say go to a ball, if a member of the royal family is present, it's always closed to the general press and the general public. They have things that they call rota photographers and reporters who are accredited by the palace, and it's a handful. And they stand outside like, you know, fans in the 1950s behind crushed barriers. And they click their cameras and they chat amongst each other. And this is what they call information. I mean, they're never allowed inside. You never see them inside. You know, it's a joke, and no wonder they always come up with nonsense.
I'd like to know that if all of your books are supposed to be good, why, and you got them from good sources, why are all three different?
But they're not all good, and they're not all authentic.
Is this just a money scam? Do you write these books for the money?
Well, I decided to do my book in 1984. It was the first decision I took, and actually got round to doing it in 1988, because I thought she was a really interesting character. That's the reason I did it.
Question.
Lady Campbell, I want to know what makes your source so authoritative?
Well,
where do you get your source from?
Okay, first of all, I am genuinely connected to the royal family through marriage. I also have,
Lady Colin,
I also have a cousin. Sorry?
What were you saying?
Laughable. How are you even vaguely connected with them?
Well,
if you crawled up behind the Princess of Wales and bit her on the bum, she wouldn't know who you were.
Well, I am delighted to hear you ask that question, so that you have an opportunity to once more display your ignorance, because my husband, Lord Colin Campbell, is the son of the 11th Duke of Argyll, and the wife of the 9th Duke of Argyll was Her Royal Highness the Princess Louise, Duchess of Argyll. And you don't have to take my word for it. Scurry to one of your little reference books and read it. Now,
how long were you married, may I ask? For how long were you married, Lady Colin?
I'm not prepared to go into how long I was married or how long I wasn't. As you know, I am suing you for libel over lies you told about me in connection with my personal life. I do not intend to get into all of... I do not intend to get into all of this.
Tell us about your personal life.
Yes, to answer this young lady's question, So I am friendly with...
Go on, tell us about your private life.
James, be good.
Nicholas.
Why don't you scurry back to the lavatory where you crawled out of?
And you've got to be good as well. Stop this squabbling.
Okay, everybody stop squabbling.
I want to ask the three of you, if it's all...
I want to hear about Lady Colin's private life.
I'm not interested. If you say these are all false statements, why doesn't the royal company family sue you for libel?
Well, they can't sue me because everything I've said is absolutely
That's
true.
what I don't understand.
And
Let me ask a question. Nicholas, does the royal family ever sue anybody, no matter how bad or how fallacious the story is?
It has never sued anyone in the United Kingdom. They have
so now all we Americans need to know is that
they have not sued because it would mean they would have to go into a court of law and they would have to give evidence.
Okay. Well, wait. It's not would it be better, it's their way.
Correct.
And that is why you have rubbish like the Morton book.
My question is, why do you take the time to write on people's personal lives? If anyone here was having a divorce, would you write on it?
No,
they marry, they love each other, they live together. Every relationship has its good and bad points. What is the significance? Why does the whole world have to know what's going on in their family life?
I think the world wants to know, don't they?
Yeah, madam, the reason is that these people are in the public domain. They are part of the royal family. Everyone pays taxes towards their upkeep. And therefore, the public do have a right to know what's going on.
Let's get back to...
Particularly when it's about the heir to the throne.
Let's get back to bulimia. I'm going to ask each one of the four of you for some kind of information or statement as to, is she bulimic? Do you think so? How does it affect her? Let's start with you, Nicholas.
Well, for what I understand, from the very start, when she was engaged to Charles, the powers that be said to her, you have got to lose weight. Here was this girl who was perfectly happy over 9 stone, and the people at Vogue, to start with, said, you've got to lose weight, you're carrying far too much weight, you can't get married, you can't have a wedding looking like that. That's where it all started for her.
They asked her to lose weight.
Absolutely, yeah. And she went along with it. Here was a 19-year-old girl, inexperienced. She went along with it. As a result of that, what I do believe, is that she has since always had problems with her diet and with her weight. And occasionally, yes, she probably has suffered from anorexia nervosa. She probably has suffered from bulimia occasionally. But I must say this, if she was in such dire straits, as Morton suggests in his book, if she was in such dire straits, then she would not have looked so tremendous in all the photographs that have been taken of that particular woman over the last 9 years. You cannot be that ill for 9 years and still look so damn good as she does in her photographs.
Now, Andrew said it started on the honeymoon. Do you want to elaborate on that, Andrew?
Yes, indeed. First of all, bulimia nervosa is a sister disease to anorexia nervosa.
Correct.
It's a disease, basically, which is seated in childhood, and an unhappy childhood. And as we all know, the Princess of Wales lost her parents through a very messy and acrimonious divorce when she was about 6 years old. Now, it was triggered in her adult life by the instability initially in her marriage, and by just one very small incident. Prince Charles put his arms round his wife and said, "You're getting a bit chubby now, aren't you, dear?" And that triggered off something very deep in her psyche. And from then on, she was being sick 4 or 5 times a day, and also indulging in food binges, which means that she was raiding the fridge at Windsor Castle, at Highgrove, and at Kensington Palace. Now, she suffered from that for a number of years. And because of the nature of bulimia, it's a disease which exists by disguise. So you think that you give the impression of being very happy and smiling for the public, but inside there's rage, there's despair, and there's anger. And this is a well-known psychological symptom. In the late 1980s, her best friend, Caroline Bartholomew, who was so alarmed by the mood swings caused by the illness, by the lack of vitamins and so on, that she insisted that she went to see a specialist, a chap called Maurice Lipsage, who was within 6 months.
Are you saying that it was so bad? Are you saying it was so bad beforehand that she wouldn't have sought any advice?
What I am saying is that she went to see a couple of people as well, a chap called David Mitchell, a doctor called Dr. Alan McGlashan. She didn't get on with them. They weren't able to do an awful lot for her.
Oh, can I say that my sources say that her eating habits, and it's all in my book, are
Well, Lady Colin Campbell, your sources includes James Whitaker, who you've just said comes out of a toilet. Your other source, one of your other sources, includes a chap called Rupert Fairfax, a former assistant private secretary to the Prince of Wales, who has asked me to make clear on this programme that he never spoke to you, and that what you've said in relation to him is, in relation to many of the things that you said, absolute nonsense.
That's absolutely not so. That's absolutely not so. However, of course, you do come out with the most extravagant claims.
Can I
and
go
this
back
is the latest. Can I go back to the bulimia?
Yes, I'd like to.
Which is,
Can I just talk about the anorexia?
Yes.
Yes, because I actually wrote about this disease in November 1982, and I was told by a member of the princess's family that they were extremely concerned she was becoming anorexic. So I really can confirm that that has been in existence for very nearly 10 years now. And of course there was some sort of treatment done, but they didn't really get to grips with it properly, and it was allowed to drift on, which did from time to time cause terrible problems.
She refused to get treatment, which is quite standard with bulimics. Her eating problems started at school. Her schoolmates told me that she used to gorge herself and have 4, 5, and 6 helpings of breakfast. Then hold on, let me finish, please.
Give me a name or two instead of a vague generalization.
Let me finish.
Go on, give me a name.
Will you shut up, you little worm? and when she was, and a member of the royal household told me that when she went into the bathroom, into her suite of rooms, and the door was open, and she saw her being sick in the lavatory. This was just after the engagement, and she had already said to this member of the royal household that she hated how she looked in her engagement photographs because she looked so fat. And she said to this member of the royal household, she said, I have discovered a great way of dieting. It's not true that the royal family tried to get her to slim. They did not.
They did not.
She did it of her own free will. Okay.
I agree with you, Lady Colin.
Finally!
Miracles.
Take a break. We'll be right back. James, I'm saying this for your benefit. What we have here now is an American audience of about 200 people with a standing microphone. They are lined up in front of the microphone. Since this is only a one-way satellite, you can't see that. These people are going to ask all of you or any one of you a question, and I'm going to ask that you give them as succinct an answer geared to the American market as you possibly can. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, I understand Lady Di tried to commit suicide with a lemon peeler. I can't understand that. A lemon peeler?
Andrew, it was your suggestion. How do you commit suicide with a lemon peeler?
Well, as I made clear at the start, it was a lemon slicer, and it was at Kensington Palace, and it was not a deliberate attempt to take her own life. It was just a desperate cry for help, where she was scoring herself with this lemon peeler.
You mean it was a tantrum? It was a tantrum. Well, why didn't you say it was a tantrum?
Okay,
it wasn't an attempt to suicide.
And I stand by this, that it was a desperate cry for help. And also,
but you said it was a suicide attempt.
And also, in psychological terms, the flip side of bulimia nervosa is called the cutting syndrome, where you want to cut yourself because you have such
not a suicide attempt.
Mr. Morton, she has never had a scar on her body. She has never had a bandage, ever.
And of course you would know, Lady Colin.
Yes, I would know.
Well, you obviously don't.
Rather more than you do. Why don't you maybe get some new glasses? Then you'll start to see.
Okay, next question from the audience.
Well, I come from Wales, and we love the Prince, we love Diana, and she's very good with children, she's very good with older people. And I was talking to Britain last night to 3 different people, relatives and friends, and they said they don't believe there's going to be a divorce at all, that they'll work something out between them.
Okay.
Well, madam, I would like to say that I don't think there will be a divorce either.
No.
I believe they have had an arrangement, a separation, which I've written about for the last 4 years, in which basically Diana lives in Kensington Palace and Charles lives at Highgrove, to a great degree. And they've been living like that for the last 4 years, and there is no real reason why they shouldn't continue to live like that.
What is the official religion of Charles and Di?
Church of England.
That is what we would call Episcopal?
No, 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 you'd call Protestant.
It is Episcopal. Church of England, is it not American Episcopal?
No, it's Protestant.
Protestant.
Yes.
Okay, why can't they get divorced and he still remain king? Because Henry VIII...
They can separate, they can get divorced, and he can still ascend to the throne.
They can get divorced?
Indeed.
Okay, go ahead.
As a fellow, one of my citizens had mentioned earlier about personal lives. Since for a couple of centuries now, Britain has been run by the Parliament, the House of Lords and the House of Commons.
True.
And in the past couple of centuries, why don't you just read out the quote-unquote monarchy, so this way the citizens don't have to worry about paying taxes, so this way you don't have to waste time printing all about their personal life?
Well, the answer to you there is that because only about 15% of people, at the very most, want a republicanism in Britain. They like the monarchy. 85% want to retain the monarchy. If they want to retain the monarchy, Britain should be allowed to do so.
Yes, it's their country. Go ahead.
Two quick questions. One, do all Brits take lessons in diplomacy from the House of Commons? Because that's been in evidence today. Secondly, I want to ask, do you all consider the effects of your writings on the British attitude toward the monarchy? I have friends there, and I know some of them are very much, let's get rid of the Queen, it costs too much, we don't need her. What's the effect of your books?
We are very proud of our House of Commons, point one, because that is good fun, and the House of Commons has been existing like that for the last 250 years. We're also very proud of our monarchy, and although they may cost the taxpayer some money, do remember that the monarchy bring in millions of pounds each and every year from wonderful tourists like the people of America who come over to Britain to have a look at Buckingham Palace and check out our monarchy.
Do they make more than they spend and than it costs to keep them?
Yes,
far more.
Far more. So you spend more having them there that we visit.
But also, can I answer
Correct.
his question? His question was
Surely.
addressed to us as writers. And I certainly was very aware of the fact that it was my responsibility to convey the truth and to do it responsibly. And I actually got on television in March and April while Morton was still compiling his dossier of fantasy. And I said that I had no doubt that a less responsible writer than I would eventually go with the suicide stories, because if they'd been leaked to me, they'd be leaked to other people. And that he would present them as the truth if he was not scrupulous because of the obvious commercial advantages, and not caring about the damage this would do to the Prince of Wales and to the monarchy. And of course, no sooner do I say it than up pops this Jack in the Box, chatting a whole heap of claptrap.
Okay, let us get, just to introduce another topic, I want to get to Camilla Parker and to the idea of infidelity. Number one, Nicholas, will you explain to the American public who Camilla Bowles Parker is, or is it Parker Bowles?
It's Parker Bowles to start with. Camilla Parker Bowles is a young lady who, now not a young lady, she's the same age as Prince Charles.
Which is?
42 today.
43.
And they met when they were 23 years of age. And they certainly got on extremely well at that time. But Charles was not thinking in any way of settling down or getting married. He then went off to sea for 4 years. During that time, she met and married Parker Bowles, Andrew Parker Bowles. Now, very importantly, when Earl Mountbatten was shot and killed by the IRA in August 1979, the one person that Charles turned to at that time was Camilla. He was desperate. He was very sad, he was very angry, and Camilla helped him over the next 6 months to come to terms with what had happened.
But she's married to an older man, and he's not.
Correct.
So he could never marry her, she was already married. Now what's happening, Nicholas, quickly in their relationship? They seem to always be together, this married woman.
Now what has happened is since the breakdown in the marriage of Diana and Charles, which really did take place seriously from about 85, 86, Charles and Camilla spend a great deal of time with each other. They live very close together in Gloucestershire, and they're extremely good friends, if not more than that.
Now, Andrew, explain about the bracelet.
Yes, Camilla has really cast a long shadow over the courtship and the marriage of Princess Diana and Prince Charles. And shortly before the wedding, Diana opened a package at Buckingham Palace. It contained a bracelet with their initials F and G, Fred and Gladys, a nickname that Prince Charles and Camilla share together. It was also, Diana knew about this because earlier that year Camilla had been ill, and he'd sent her a bouquet of flowers. Diana was understandably very annoyed about it and was almost at the point of calling the whole wedding off. And she spoke to her sisters about it, Jane and Sarah, at Buckingham Palace at a lunch, at the same time that Prince Charles went off to see his friend Camilla. And they said to her, "Too late, Dutch," which is their family nickname for her. "Your face is on the tea towels now, so it's too late to chicken out." So when Diana walked down the aisle at St. Paul's Cathedral, she was very emotionally confused. On the one hand was her love for Prince Charles, on the other was this nagging suspicion about his continuing relationship with Camilla Parker Bowles.
Now, if that were true, it would be a wonderful story, but it's not. Now, I have known Camilla Parker Bowles' brother, Mark Shand, for 20 years. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, no member of the aristocracy would ever wear a bracelet that had F and G. It is common, it is vulgar, it is like ankle bracelets. You just don't do things like this. If Mr. Morton knew anything about the world he writes about, which he obviously doesn't, he would know this. It is absolute nonsense. The whole story, I'm not saying that he might not have been fed the story, but if he had deductive powers, and if he studied the world that he's writing about, which I think is the responsibility of any writer, he would know that it is not true.
One of our authors said that when she hits the redial button on his phone, it's Camilla's phone that answers. When we come back, a woman who is convinced that Diana and Charles are headed for a divorce. We'll be right back. We are back talking about Princess Diana and Prince Charles and what will become of their marriage. Meet Louise Lagoux. She is the associate editor of People magazine, and the royals are her beat. Now, you saw us all sitting here reading People magazine. Louise, why do we Americans care? Why are we so intrigued, and why did your magazine sell so many copies?
Well, we don't like to think about this, but 200 and some years ago we fought a war so as not to have royals anymore, and now we consider them still part of our heritage, and we absolutely adore them, and they are celebrities, and there's a Cinderella factor, and there's this other idea, you know, how many of us would like to be 5'10", blonde, size 4, have nannies all day and all night, and still she's not happy. So there's a kind of idea that a lot of us are happier than she is.
And does that make us feel better?
Yes, it does. It makes us feel better about our own lives.
Is the worse it gets over there, the better we feel?
No, we don't wish her ill, don't get me wrong.
I was trying to psych it all out.
We want her to look great and have beautiful clothes.
All right, do you think they're going to get divorced?
I think they could. Now, it's a very American point of view to say if you're unhappy, dump the guy. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it could happen because, you know, I've been listening to this and I love every minute of it, but to me it almost doesn't matter who's right and who's wrong. I think there's exaggeration. I think there's truth in everything that's being said. What matters is this has gone too far. These people are slugging this out in public. How would they ever get back together and be happy? They could split up. He could step out of the line of succession. The Queen has vowed to reign until she dies, which, looking at her gene pattern, will be another 25 years. Prince Wills is now 10. He can step in at the age of 35, and everything will be fine.
Except the man has been brought up to be a king, and he never got to play the part. It's like rehearsing for a long time.
He can be an activist. He can be another Mountbatten, his idol. He can be, he can agitate on behalf of the environment and education, and he can do more of that as a private citizen.
Can they ever remarry anyone else? Does she have a boyfriend?
That is Nicholas's department, I
Nicholas,
think.
does Princess Di have a hidden boyfriend? Or
A hidden boyfriend? No, she's got many friends that she goes out with, most of them are girls of her own age, or young men, usually young, handsome men, usually young, handsome, single men that she certainly goes out with and sees a great deal of.
Lady Colin Campbell, does she have a boyfriend?
Well,
American
if you read my book, you will see that I list 4 confidants who she has had. She has the equivalent of Camilla. She has her own Camilla.
Well, now, all of you English are using words like friend and confidant. Let's get to America, where we use lover, boyfriend. We'll take a break and we'll work that out. James, I'm going to ask you then, does she have a lover, Princess Di?
No, she does not. She gets her rocks off from the adoration she gets from her public. I think it's a complete sex substitute for her. I don't think she needs it. She's one of these women who looks absolutely terrific, but if you put a finger on her, I think anybody would be in major trouble. And I don't think there's any boyfriend in her life, in the sense that you're talking about, which is a lover.
Nicholas?
I can't agree with James, I'm afraid, despite the fact he's wonderful. The reason being is, as any woman would know, a young woman does not look as great, tremendous, wonderful as Diana looks all the time if there was no man in her life.
No, but the substitute, Nick, is that public.
You hear a buzz among the Americans. Quick question.
As far as this ordeal goes with Princess Di killing herself over Charles, she really does not have to kill herself over Charles, because she could do much better than him. And he should be thankful that he has a wife that takes care of his children and his wife, because the way people separate today, you'd be thankful when you have a loyal wife.
Louise, do we care as much about the royalty of Monaco as we do about the British?
Well, our sales say no. Just according to how many Monaco covers we sell versus how many British we sell. I don't think we feel the same heritage thing, and I don't think we think they're real royals. And I think Princess Grace is part of that. You know, we were all delighted, those, people old enough to remember when she married in. But then after that, well, they're not real royals anymore because they're half American.
Aha! Okay, James, you have a final statement. What would you like to say?
I do. If you're going to buy one of these 3 books, you really ought to put your dollars onto the Morton one, because it is as good as the controversy that you have read about is, and that's for a good reason, really. I have read all 3, and one of them is outstanding. The others are not that bad, but they're not very good either.
Let me say this. In America, when we build a mall or a shopping center, we put 3 large department stores on either end. I've read all 3 books and think they're all fascinating, and suggest that the American public go out and buy them, and all 3 of you will get very, very rich, and then you'll stop squabbling. Okay, here's the deal. For the price of a bathing suit, about $58 discount, you buy Nicholas Davis, Diana, hold that for me, Diana in Private, Lady Colin Campbell's book, and Diana, her true story, Andrew Morton's book. And then we'll have a spot of tea and a good tan, and we'll know everything we need to know. See you next time.
Some members of our audience will receive, and a promotional fee has been provided by